recapping a wild weekend around the NHL. Welcome to Short Shifts for Monday, November 17th, 2025. Vic and Neil with you. Good weekend?
Excellent. Sunny, warm, down here in Greenville, South Carolina. Beautiful. Just beautiful. Can't have better weather than we had.
Spent a real nice overnight up in Boston over the weekend. Did a lot of walking around, but didn't miss a thing around the league. And we're going to start with Friday because a little bit of history was made, but want to go through the 4 games first. In the afternoon game that was played in the Global Series over in Sweden, Nashville beat Pittsburgh 2-1. Philip Forsberg tied the game with 70 seconds left in regulation. Steven Stamkos winner in overtime. And on Sunday, Pittsburgh got revenge with a 4-0 shutout win. Sergei Murashov, 21 saves, his first NHL shutout and only his second NHL game. Sidney Crosby scored his 12th. Getty Malkin also scored in that game. Did you know the Penguins 116, 10, and 6 all time when the 2 future Hall of Famers score?
That's amazing. When they both score in the same game. Boy, if it's early in the game, you just look at each other on the bench, I guess, and go, well, we might as well leave. I'm not winning this one. Yeah.
I want to go back to the rest of the Friday games, but I had to come full circle with the Global Series. So also, Carolina beat Vancouver 4-3. Taylor Hall, game-tying goal. And Sebastian Aho, his 17th career overtime goal. Philadelphia beat St. Louis 6-5. The Flyers get 2 in the third to force the extra frame. Now, Trevor Zegras, who already had 2 goals and an assist, got stopped on a penalty shot in overtime, but then scored the only goal in the shootout. You remember that Zegras is the all-time leader in shootout percentage, but I guess having to take an actual penalty shot in overtime didn't work for him.
No, but you know what? As I said on Neil's Nuggets, if you look it up on NHLWraparound.com,
spoiler alert,
Zegras is actually putting points on the board in the standings for his team. And that's really hard to define that. Goalies, okay, they get a shutout. Yeah, you could say they got their team 2 points. You know, certainly if a guy scores the winning goal, you could say maybe that, he got the team points. But this is definitive. I mean, when you're the guy scoring on every shootout, you're getting your team an extra point every time you do that.
What I thought was most interesting was that on the penalty shot, he used literally the same move that we have seen, where he comes in very slowly off the right side and then just waits for the goalie to relax for a second and zips his shot through the pads. But he made the adjustment after getting stopped on the penalty shot by Jordan Binnington to slide it to his backhand to score the goal. So great piece of adjustment there by Zegras, and the Flyers get that win. And then in the 4th game on Friday, the Islanders beat Utah 3-2 in overtime to get their 4th consecutive win on their 7-game road trip. Jonathan Drouin got the game-tying goal. Initially, it was disallowed because of a kicking motion by Drouin, but then it was determined that his kick actually deflected in off the stick of Nate Schmidt, and that's why the goal was allowed. Matthew Schaefer, overtime winner, youngest ever to score an overtime goal in regular season history in the NHL. This young man continues to amaze. He is noticeable every shift he's on the ice, and I know I'm repeating myself with that.
He is. He's very noticeable. He's a front runner for the Calder as Rookie of the Year, and he's been spectacular so far.
So with that, we go back to the history that was made, and perhaps you would like to share that with everybody on Friday.
This is the first time in NHL history of regular season games that 4+ games on the schedule have all gone to overtime. Every game went into overtime. First time that's happened in league history.
And the interesting footnote, all of the teams that won actually trailed in the third period.
That's even better.
Next item, many happy returns. And we've got 4 of them here for you, and then kind of a fun item at the back end. Zach Hyman comes back for the Oilers' first game since having a severe injury to his wrist during the conference finals against Dallas. The Oilers beat Carolina 4-3 in overtime. Hyman got an assist on Connor McDavid's goal early in the third period. Leon Draisaitl, his 20th career overtime goal, 4th all-time behind Alex Ovechkin, Sidney Crosby, Brad Marchand. Up in Ottawa, the LA Kings with a 1-0 shutout. Former backup goaltender Anton Forsberg, 17-save shutout against his former team. The Vegas beat St. Louis on Saturday 4-1. Brandon Saad scores his first goal of the season in a return to St. Louis against the team that he terminated his contract with because he didn't want to play in the minors, and he actually left money on the table to find greener pastures in Vegas.
And he certainly has found greener pastures because he's played pretty well for the Knights.
On Sunday, Brock Nelson played his first game against his former team, the New York Islanders. Goal and an assist in a 4-1 Avalanche win. Colorado is 8-0-2 in their last 10, 13-1-5-0 overall. The Islanders' 4-game winning streak on this 7-game trip has been snapped. But one of the things I mentioned, Neil, was how I want to continue to see this Colorado team defend. And you see the overall record. You see the streak they're on. But, boy, they gave up an awful lot to the Islanders on Sunday. Scott Wedgwood was phenomenal in this game. 28 saves, 9 on the Islanders' power play during the course of the night. And the two things that I took out of this game, yes, Colorado is good, but some defensive holes there that still need to be mended. And, of course, you've got 3/4 of the season left to do that before the playoffs. But also, the Islanders are emerging as a better-than-decent team right now.
They are, and it's sort of perplexing because you didn't see that coming based upon the player personnel that they had coming back to this year and based upon the player personnel that left. Brock Nelson left in a trade at the deadline last year and went to the Avalanche. Dobson, their key on the power play on the point, was traded to Montreal. Matthew Schaefer is a lot better than you would think an 18-year-old was going to be. And Jude Drouin, Jonathan Drouin. I'm saying Jude Drouin because that's his dad. Jonathan Drouin is playing pretty well for them. The team is playing a lot better this year. And of course, there's been a phenomenal start by Bo Horvat and on the offensive side of things. So yes, the Islanders are causing some problems for those people in the Eastern Conference.
And one other note here, because you did mention Noah Dobson, and as part of that trade, they got Emil Heineman from the Canadiens, a player very few people knew about. He's got 9 goals.
Yeah, and Emil Heineman hadn't been very long in Montreal.
Yeah.
He was traded there, and so, yeah, you didn't see that coming. You know, when I saw that Emil Heineman had been traded to the Islanders, I thought, well, okay, well, Montreal just got him. They're getting rid of him. But he's been better than getting rid of. And, you know, the Islanders are doing this without Pierre Engvall.
That was not the fun piece that I had for the end of this segment, but that wasn't too bad. Because the last piece that I have on the Remember Us part of this is that old acquaintances in Florida got back together for the first time since the theatrics that went on at the end of the preseason. Tampa Bay beating Florida 3-1. You remember that the teams combined for 508 penalty minutes on October 1st and 2nd. Only 43 in this one. And the game-winning goal was scored in the third period by Jack Finley for the Lightning, his first NHL goal. On the flip side, for Florida, Marchand gets his 12th. He just keeps on going.
He's the ever-ready bunny, that's for sure. He keeps going, and it's a great thing to watch.
Now we're going to hit all four divisions. So we're going to come off this Tampa Bay, Florida game, give a little bit more of an Atlantic Division update to start our four divisions. Saturday night, Boston over Montreal 3-2. The Bruins take over first in the Atlantic from the Habs. And after the phenomenal start that the Canadiens gotten off to, things have gone south at home. And the Bruins at 12-8-0, now atop the division, nobody saw that coming.
How could you? I mean, how could you see that possibly coming? You can only judge things by who their player personnel is, but Marco Sturm doing a great job with the Boston Bruins. Obviously, if results are what matters, then he is doing a fantastic job. Their .600 winning percentage. So Montreal is banged up completely with the injuries, as I know you're going to talk about.
We're going to hit a couple of other notes on that game. Jaden Struble and Nikita Zadorov fought at 4 seconds, and Zadorov's game has considerably more snarl in it in his second year with the Bruins.
It does. He's a big guy. He's huge, and he's tough. And you don't often see that in guys from Europe, Russians even. They're not the fighters that the Canadians usually are in this case, but 4 seconds into it. So obviously in the warm-up, these guys had told each other, we're going. Yep. The first time we're on the ice together, we're going, because they're two defensemen. The puck got dropped, and they came at each other from opposite blue lines. Struble, give him credit. He fought Goliath and did okay.
Zadorov isn't Chara 2.0, but certainly making much more of an impact with his presence this year. And also, the 3:52 mark, so we're just talking 3 minutes and 48 seconds later, Tanner Jeannot and Arbor Xhekaj get into it as well. Jeannot winning by TKO in that one.
Yeah, Xhekaj did not look good, sprawled out on the ice after that one.
Let's hit the injuries, because in this game, Charlie McAvoy left after taking a puck to the face. The good news is that he cleared testing, and he did travel with the team back to Boston. Victor Arvidsson, who scored a goal in that game on Saturday, is now on injured reserve with a lower body injury, as is forward Casey Middlestat. And Jordan Harris, defenseman, goes to LTIR for Boston. Now, for Montreal, and this is where this really starts getting serious, and you understand how long this season is and how much can go wrong despite a real good start that the Habs had.
Absolutely right. I know you're going to go through the injuries, but the one thing that you can't prepare for is injuries.
Here they come. Kirby Dach in that game against the Bruins, fractured foot, out 4 to 6 weeks. Alex Newhook, who we talked about on Friday's show, had surgery for a fractured ankle after getting tied up with Ilya Lyubushkin of Dallas on Thursday. He is out 4 months. And Caden Gooley, who hadn't played since October 16th, he's a defenseman that they were counting on to have a good season this year. He had surgery for a torn adductor muscle. He is out 8 to 10 weeks. So the Canadians that got this great start are now falling back into the pack, and now they're third in the Atlantic.
Yeah, and as I just said, Vic, there's nothing you can do when injuries hit. And don't forget, isn't Laine is on the sidelines as well?
Yep.
Patrick Laine. So yeah, they've hit the injury bug in Montreal.
2 other notes from the Atlantic. Joseph Woll made a season debut for the Maple Leafs in goal in a 3-2 loss to Chicago, stopped 29 of 32 shots. And the Maple Leafs also claimed Troy Stecher, defenseman off waivers from Edmonton, Brandon Carlo, on IR for the Leafs, retroactive to November the 13th. So Toronto obviously looking to improve their defensive depth. They have Chris Tanev out also. Toronto is in 15th in the Eastern Conference.
And 15th, when I went to school and did arithmetic, is second last. They only are ahead of the lowly Buffalo Sabres.
Let's head to the Metro. And we're going to start with injury news first because this is a big one. Jack Hughes, star for the Devils, cut his hand at a team dinner on Thursday and is expected to be out 8 weeks, reevaluated in 6. So the trickle-down effect is not only what is obvious on the front burner, which is the Devils moving forward, but also the potential of whether or not he will be able to represent the United States in the Olympics in Italy in February.
And for such a freak accident to happen at dinner where a glass had been broken and was put up on the table, and then Hughes' hand somehow fell onto it, or he was falling and his hand went back, and that's what cut his finger badly, and he had to get surgery. That's a really unfortunate thing for Hughes and for the Devils, who are playing .750 hockey. That's a big loss. But as I just finished saying, who can ever predict these things?
And he has had a series of unfortunate injuries already in his young career, and this is the latest, and no doubt the most bizarre.
For sure.
How about Throwback Sunday in Madison Square Garden? So for those of you that didn't see it, 100th year for the Red Wings and the Rangers, and they both wore their dark uniforms at Madison Square Garden from their 1926 season. The Red Wings with a 2-1 win. But the real fun of this one started at the final buzzer because Mason Appleton of the Red Wings shot a puck into the empty net after the buzzer had gone off. Jonathan Quick, who was spectacular in this game, and quite frankly, the only reason this wasn't a 7 or 8-1 game, charged off the bench, went after Appleton, and the bench is emptied. And you remember the old black and white footage that we used to see in the films in the early days of TV, and both teams were wearing the dark jerseys. This was such a great throwback to see everybody on the ice after the game milling around, and cooler heads prevailed. But the visual in and of itself was something.
I want to make sure we emphasize this. These are the Centennial jerseys. These were not the Red Wings' normal dark home jersey and the Rangers' normal dark home jersey. These were their 2 Centennial jerseys. Looked really cool out there on the ice. But then, as you said, getting everybody in that scrum together at the end made it even more special.
You're familiar, though, with seeing your team, the Rangers, wear dark jerseys and have another team wear the dark jerseys in the same game.
Yeah, we did that in Montreal in the year 99-2000. I'm not sure if we did it for the last game of 99 or the first game of 2000. I think it was the first game of the year 2000 and the new millennium. And we said, why not, do it like they used to do it and play in dark before they ever had white uniforms. So the Montreal Canadiens wore the what's known now as the home red jersey, and the Rangers wore what was then known as the road blue jersey. And it was kind of cool to see that like that. Some people thought they didn't like it, but I thought it was really cool.
After the game last night, I went back to look at Pipa Bando's overtime goal. Game 7, double overtime in 1950, where both the Rangers and Red Wings were wearing dark jerseys. And of course, with the grainy footage from back then, you couldn't even tell who was who.
Yeah, from the black and white and white TV. I mean, Did you know that the reason, not did you know, I'm sure you know, but I'm going to tell everybody else this. It was because of black and white TV that the red line in hockey, once they put it in, they mandated that it had to be a checkered red line. It had to go red, white, all the way across. And that was so that on black and white TV, you could differentiate the blue line from the red line.
Good piece of history there. But I'm going to bring this forward now to the 2 teams that were in that game last night. First, the Red Wings, who played a very, very sound game. Very sound through the neutral zone, bottled things up, yet they managed to blow a 4-1 lead to a struggling Buffalo team and lost in overtime on Saturday. And then the Rangers, who win in Columbus to go 9-1-1 on the road and then come home, play their usual game of malaise in Madison Square Garden. They are now 1-7-1 there. And Dave Maloney spent a lot of time saying how well Detroit was playing through center ice, which is true. But the other piece of this is New York, for some reason, gets away from the simple game that works on the road, refuses to play the puck deep and below the goal line of Detroit. And so you wonder why they have so much trouble in their own building. Is because they just cannot employ the same type of game in the Garden as they do when they're away from home.
And that is very true. But the one thing that we also should mention, because I found it perplexing when I turned that game on, was that Mike Sullivan was not behind the bench. I never heard the reason why Sullivan wasn't there. I know it was a personal matter, but I didn't hear what.
Joe Sacco and David Quinn ran the bench. Same result. Let's move over to the Central Division with some injury updates there. Frank Nazar returned the game against Toronto, that 3-2 Chicago win, was previously mentioned. He had missed the previous two games with an abdominal injury, had an assist in that one. But Captain Nick Foligno left the game after taking a puck to the hand on a Jake McCabe shot. He will be out 4 weeks, and you remember that Foligno missed time earlier in the season to be with his family while his daughter was undergoing treatment for heart surgery.
He's had some tough luck. He's missed time, but he's a warrior, and he's going to get injured the way he plays.
For the Dallas Stars, defenseman Thomas Harley out week to week with a lower body injury. In the Pacific, good news, bad news for the LA Kings. Adrian Kempe is now off the UFA board, or the pending board, for July 1st of next year. He signs an 8-year, $85 million extension with the Kings. 10.625 AAV. It doesn't suck knowing that you're going to spend the next 8 years of your career, after having spent your entire career there to begin with, in sunny SoCal.
Yeah, and you're going to have a lot of change in your pocket while you're doing it. But good for him. He's a really good player. I enjoy watching him. He reminds me in some ways of Kucherov in Tampa Bay. Kempe is such a good skater and so deft with the puck.
Conversely, defenseman Drew Doughty left Saturday's game after blocking a shot with his foot. He left the Canadian Tire Center in a walking boot, and now he is expected to miss a few weeks. In Vancouver, goalie Thatcher Demko back on IR with a lower body injury after getting injured Thursday against Winnipeg. He is now considered week to week. So Kevin Lankinen will now be the primary. With Yuri Patera as the backup, this is a guy that has not played in the NHL since March of 2024.
The Demko saga continues in Vancouver. He's clearly their number one, but isn't able to stay healthy for whatever reason. Bad luck, whatever.
Didn't seem to deter the Canucks on Saturday because, you talk about not being able to predict this league. The Lightning came into the game 8-2-0 in their last 10. They're up 2-1 in the third period. The Canucks score 5 times. Quinn Hughes had 4 assists, 3 of them in that third period. So go figure.
And that's in Tampa Bay, I remind you. And the first period, Tampa obliterated Vancouver. I think Vancouver had 2 shots in the first period. And yet it all fell apart on Tampa. And as you said, how can you predict this stuff?
Well, you try to.
You try to, but I try to, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's where I was going. One other note with the Canucks. Forward David Kampf signs after the Maple Leafs terminated his deal. This was a player that was waived before the season started, went to the AHL affiliate, I believe played 4 games, then took a voluntary leave of absence to contemplate his future. This was an unsanctioned move by the Leafs, and they mutually agreed to part ways. So here's a player that is obviously putting stock in himself, but not certain that he really had the resume to actually do that.
No, he didn't. I'm quite surprised that the Maple Leafs turned around and did what they did, but now he'll get his chance to prove that he belongs.
One thing it did do was by terminating the contract, it did create the cap space needed to get Joseph Woll back on board. Also, Matt Murray, Seattle goaltender, left the game with San Jose on Saturday with 18 seconds left in the first period with a lower body injury. Philip Grubauer finished the game stopping all 19 shots in a 4-1 Kraken win. And Samuel Honzek, forward for the Calgary Flames, left Saturday's game with Winnipeg after colliding with teammate Michael Backlund, which wound up resulting in the first goal of the game by Mark Scheifele. He is out week to week, went to the bench, didn't look too good at all, and just unfortunate whenever you run into a teammate that something like that happens.
Yeah, it really is. To be out week to week is tough.
Wasn't that something that happened to Pat LaFontaine and essentially ended his career when he ran into Mike Keane? No, that ended his career
when he ran into Mike Keane at Madison Square Garden, and that gave Pat LaFontaine his last concussion.
Any other updates?
Good news for Senators and their fans. Captain Brady Tkachuk will travel with the team on this upcoming road trip, which means that he'll at least be practicing during that road trip, and who knows, maybe he'll get in, but it's good that he's going to be back with the team.
Our website is NHL Wraparound, New York-centric, written by Patrick Hoffman. Neil's Nuggets, his latest installment, appeared on Saturday, and Smith's Picks. So your weekend, the bookends weren't above 500, but Saturday, 4-0-1, almost your first perfect slate of the season. So you're 96, 60, and 23 on the year.
Yeah, and just 4 wins away from the century mark. So let's see what we can do tonight.
Check out those picks exclusively on NHLWraparound.com and see if Neil gets to 100 wins on the season. A couple of games that I'm looking at for the next couple of nights. On Monday, Carolina visits Boston. And I think this is another great test for the Bruins to see just how they stack up with the elite in the Eastern Conference.
And whether they can hold them off is really the big thing, because they're not up with the Hurricanes. We know that, and they know that. But if they can play well against them, maybe pull out a win, shows them that they're getting more and more for real.
But they did beat them when Carolina came in earlier in the season. But the one thing that you know about the Hurricanes, they shoot as soon as they get off the team bus. And so expect Jeremy Swayman to be under siege most of the night.
Yeah, that is true.
On Tuesday, Rangers go to Vegas. And the Golden Knights really struggled on their recent 6-game homestand. New York is near flawless on the road, but they are really stepping up in class. In this 3-game Western trip, the Mountain Time Zone, they're going to play the Golden Knights, the Avalanche, and the Mammoth.
Yeah, we're going to see what we see out of their team, because they're Jekyll and Hyde for sure this year.
All you need to do is look at the home and road records to see that.
That's right. Wow.
NHL Wraparound on Wednesday, 1 week later than planned, but we are going to welcome Utah Mammoth GM Bill Armstrong to the show, and Short Shifts returns on Friday. Enjoy the hockey Monday and Tuesday. We'll speak to you on Wednesday.